Hey, everybody. So, what you are about to watch is actually a hunk that I pulled out of my most recent episode review from Star Trek Discovery, the review of Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 11, Rosetta. I already posted that full review, so if you watched that entire review already, what you're about to see, you've already seen, so you don't have to watch this if you don't want to, or if you want to see a little bit of that review again out of context, please go ahead and watch the rest of this video. But during that review, I had some comments that apply more broadly to the plotting and the writing of Star Trek Discovery's entire season and to the way the show has been written all the way through from the very beginning. And I think it also applies to the first season of Star Trek Picard as well. It talks about what I think is the biggest problem with the way that the new generation of Star Trek shows, at least with the new generation of live action Star Trek shows, has been written so far. And I felt like it was good enough to stand on its own. So if you haven't seen that most recent Star Trek Discovery episode review, you're going to hear this isolated bit. And if you have seen that episode review already, you can either watch it again or you can skip this one with no hard feelings for me. But here is a segment from my most recent Star Trek Discovery episode review of episode 11, Rosetta, where I talk about what I perceive to be the biggest problem with the writing of the current generation of live action Star Trek shows and how I think, in my infinite wisdom, as a self-appointed critic who makes YouTube videos, how I think they could address those issues. So take it away, me. Once again, while there have been some very good individual episodes, the season-long story of Discovery has seemingly been backloaded so that very little happens in the few episodes leading up to the finale, and then in the final episode, or perhaps final two episodes, we sprint through story beats that are probably going to be very interesting and creative, but that won't land quite as solidly as they should because there won't be room for anything to breathe. I don't know for sure if that's what's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm basing that prediction on the fact that it's what has happened to one degree or another in every single prior season of this show and in the first season of Star Trek Picard. That's frustrating. And to be clear, it's frustrating because I like the show. I've noticed that whenever I give one of these episodes kind of a mixed review, I get comments from some of you saying, I'm sorry you don't like the show. And if I've given you that impression, I apologize, because that is not the case. I do like the show. It's far and away my favorite of the current crop of Star Trek shows. I like Star Trek Discovery very much. When it works, it really works. It's great. That's why it's so frustrating that on the season-long scale, at least, the writers keep making the same mistakes year after year after year. Writing well is hard. Writing well for TV is especially hard. Writing well for TV on a show that's telling an ongoing story throughout the season is even more particularly, especially hard. And it's the easiest thing in the world for some fans / self-appointed critics such as myself to sit here and point out the things I think the obviously very talented and dedicated people who write this show are doing wrong. But it's, and I know I keep using this word, frustrating to see a show I genuinely like continue to get the same things wrong in the same ways after 4 years. Like I said, writing well is hard. Successfully executing a story you've come up with that sounds amazing in your head is really, really hard. But in theory, addressing pacing issues like the ones that have affected the current crop of Trek shows is not that hard. Actually doing it is not easy, but figuring out what to do, that's not nearly as challenging. Whenever I bring up these pacing issues, I invariably get comments from folks who say that the problem is the number of episodes. Older Star Trek shows had longer seasons, 22, 25 episodes, sometimes even more. But that's not the problem. More episodes won't fix it. Neither will fewer episodes, as the first season of Picard demonstrates. The problem isn't the number of episodes. The problem is how those episodes are being used to tell the larger story. If you get an order for 13 episodes, and you sit down with your writing staff and you come up with a story arc for that season, and then when you break that story, you realize you've only got enough for, let's say, 9 episodes, there's a fairly simple solution to that problem. Again, in theory, that doesn't require you to fuck up the pacing of the season in order to fit 13 episodes. You can structure the story in phases. In fact, chances are it probably already falls roughly into something like a 3-act structure. So you build the story to have a resolution at the end of each act. You close a narrative loop to give that part of the story a sense of completion, while still leaving enough unresolved so that you can pick it back up and continue the story. But before you do that, instead of immediately moving ahead into the next phase, because you have reached a point of some resolution, some closure, now you can afford to take a breather from the larger story. And in that breather, you can do a standalone episode or two. And those episodes can be slow-paced or fast-paced, quiet and character-driven, or rip-roaring and action-packed, whatever you want, as long as they're mostly self-contained. Develop some of your characters. Tell that perfect one-episode sci-fi story you've always wanted to tell. And drop in a few lines, maybe a short scene or two referring back to the larger story, so we in the audience know that's still a thing, that there's still unfinished business there, but focus on the standalone story of the episode. Then, pick up the larger story and begin the next phase in the episode after that, or 2 episodes after that, or whatever. But by structuring the season to move forward in phases with partial resolutions, followed by a breather, then the next phase, you can solve a lot of the pacing problems that have afflicted these new Star Trek shows from the beginning. Again, and I cannot stress this enough, in theory, I'm not an expert, I'm not a writer on the show. I'm not presuming to know better than the actual writers, and it's entirely possible that they could structure a season in the manner I'm suggesting, and it would not work out for the better. But it would be nice to see them try something different. And that's it from me. And this is going to be it from me. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget, if you want to support me and support this channel, you can do so by becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives, or by just clicking the join button right here on YouTube and becoming a channel member. Either way, thank you all so much for the support. And even if you don't want to or aren't able to financially support the channel at this point, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Take care, everybody.